This article here, I think a lot of people missed. It's not old, it's not new, it's from about 2.5 months ago. It's called Winona Ryder Can Defend Johnny Depp, but it doesn't tell us much. So of course, this is The Guardian, and the author of this article is trying to say that, it doesn't really matter so much what Winona Ryder and Penelope Cruz say. Johnny Depp, he's probably still the abuser. And it's pretty new. This is after all the evidence is already out. So let's take a look. This is by Hadley Freeman. And Hadley says, what to make of Winona Ryder and Penelope Cruz defending Johnny Depp. 2 women say Depp never hurt them. Well, we know it's more than 2 now, but okay, let's stick with what we got here. Ergo, he could never hurt any woman. Ah, were life only that simple? It recently emerged that Cruz, who has worked with Depp 3 times, filed a declaration stating that Depp is always kind to everyone around. Meanwhile, Ryder, who went out with him 3 decades ago, said in an interview, I don't want to call anyone a liar, but from my experience of Johnny, it is impossible to believe such horrific allegations are true. I think you just called someone a liar, Winona. Well, no, she didn't call anyone a liar. She said from her experience. That's all she said. We've got some other evidence piling up that Amber Heard happens to be a liar and her friends are liars. But even without that in consideration, Winona Ryder did not actually call anyone a liar. Ryder and Cruz both know Depp personally, and it is entirely fair for them to share their personal experiences of being involved with him, so thanks for the permission for that. But that is what those experiences are, personal. And is it really impossible for Ryder to believe that Depp abused his ex-wife Amber Heard, as Heard has claimed and Depp strongly denies? I would suggest that Ryder needs to expand her imagination a little here. I am delighted for her that she had such a happy relationship with Depp, but after they broke up, he went out with Kate Moss, and one night in 1994, guests in New York's Mark Hotel heard what was described as shattering glass, snapping wood, and loud domestic squabbling. When the police turned up, Moss was sitting in a trash room and Depp was in a state of possible intoxication. He was arrested for criminal mischief, a charge a judge later dismissed, and Depp paid more than $11,000 in damages to the hotel. We'll get into that. Now, trashing a hotel room is not the same as beating one's wife, and in 1994 was a long time ago. More's the pity in scary 2020. But is it really impossible to believe that a man who once got so drunk he violently ripped apart a room with his girlfriend in it could, 25 years later, possibly get drunk and violent with his wife? Because, you know what? I've trashed hotel rooms. I've trashed apartments I've lived in, before I left. Alright, I'm not, very proud of it. I'm not embarrassed. I'm just saying I've done it. And it has absolutely nothing to do, breaking inanimate objects and throwing things around and getting drunk, with actually abusing someone physically. I've done other things in my life. I've never really harmed anyone physically myself, but I've broken a ton of shit. A ton of shit. I'm going to say more than $11,000 worth in my lifetime as me, not in some fancy hotel. So I personally, from having a lot of experience with it, make no connection with it. You guys let me know if you do. Depp is suing Heard for defamation and has always vehemently denied abusing her, so it is entirely reasonable that his friends would speak up in his defense as character witnesses. But when I hear women say he didn't beat me, ergo it's mad to think he could have beaten his ex-wife, it reminds me of people such as Len Mikowski and Ken Loach, who airily insist they haven't seen any anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, therefore it isn't a problem. Oh, did you think coronavirus would shut me up on that subject? You underestimated me, dear readers. How cool. She has a great writing style. There is something fascinatingly narcissistic in believing that one's own individual experience reveals all. McCluskey and Louch are not Jewish. Cruz and Ryder were not recently married to Depp, so their thoughts on these retrospective matters are, to be blunt, of limited relevance. Well, I could meet in the middle there. The relevance isn't the most important thing. It's not 100% relevant as opposed to, say, the audio evidence we have and the 911 pretty much hoax call evidence we have, but it is something to add onto the pile against Amber Heard, and it's pretty damn good. Not to mention, we have Parody, his ex-wife, Bardem, an actor he worked with, Robert Englund. Probably we're going to have Selma Hayek come out and say something good about him. So, when you add it all together, and you add up together how many people in Amber Heard's camp coming out for her, I don't know. It doesn't make your article look so good. It makes it look like you're playing devil's advocate or something like that. No one, as the cliche goes, knows what goes on in other people's relationships, and the only people who know the truth about Heard and Depp are Heard and Depp themselves, not the internet warriors who furiously rage in defense, I'm pretty sure that's spelled with an S, anyway, of their chosen idol and not their friends. Every day there are stories in newspapers about men who kill their children and their wives, and they are invariably padded out with quotes from friends describing the killers as a family man, one who loved his kids, who you'd never think would do such a thing. Do these people not read other news stories or even novels? Do they not understand what people are always endlessly, unfathomably surprising? So when she says something like, the only people who know the truth about Heard and Depp are Heard and Depp, I would say if only life were that simple. Because there's plenty of people around, especially tape recorders. Because tape recorders can give you a good insight to a relationship, because a tape recorder isn't biased. It just runs and it tapes all the natural things going around, the tone of voice people have when they say them, what they mean when they say things, because when the tape recorder's on, there's no faking it. Well, Amber Heard tried to fake it, but she did such a bad job that she ended up letting out evidence against herself. So at the end, she gets into this metaphor here, using an example of someone who's not famous. I've never heard of the person. I'm sure you've never heard of them. So I'll go over it real quick, but it's going to be a little jumbled and won't make too much sense. I was thinking about the mystery of others' relationships when reading an interview with the chief Marcus Waring and his wife Jane over the weekend. Now it is said to be that Marcus Waring doesn't come across as the most guardian women's dream man in the piece. Choice quotes from him include, I asked Jane for one promise, don't ask me to change. Okay? She'll play Scrabble with the kids, I can't stand that stuff. I'd rather be doing my own thing. And I wanted Jane to be a full-time mom. I was never going to be on hand to help. Jane adds, I've lost count of the number of times he's thrown shoes into the street. Cue much social media tooting, and yet the Warings seem happy. So who are we to judge? Good luck to the Warings, I say, with their contended division of labor, and good luck to any judge adjudicating in the future Depp and Heard disputes. The world may be strange and scary right now, but honestly, let's all thank the Lord that job doesn't fall into us. So the explanation she uses about a guy who doesn't want to help with the kids and his wife does all the work. So I don't really see how that pertains to Amber Heard cutting off Johnny Depp's finger and abusing him and hoaxing 911 at all. Nothing to do with it. It's a waste of time, piece of shit example. And it just doesn't pertain to them, and they don't even have kids. So Freeman, when you write an article, don't fucking bore us at the end with some stupid story that has nothing to do with domestic abuse. Make an analogy that would make sense with the case we're working on now. Make an analogy how Amber Heard didn't actually cut off Johnny's finger with a vodka bottle. How she didn't hoax 911. You can't, because that's impossible, because she did. As far as some other details around the case, I don't know. Maybe some things are yet to be proved. But the fact is there are some serious things against her. So this article, as you guys know, was written when plenty of the evidence was out. It's not that old. It's about 3 months old. And this lady just wants to nonchalantly take the side of Amber Heard, and The Guardian wants to print it. So now, what do we think of The Guardian? Well, we think they're probably mainstream media who's going to start going in the way of Amber Heard. Not sure how mainstream, but they're mainstream than a lot of other papers that some of us YouTubers cover and things like that. You let me know down below what you think of this. Do you think Cruz and Winona Ryder's word is, not very meaningful? Or do you think it's pretty important? I think it's pretty important. If I was a judge, I'd be like, okay. I wouldn't be like, you win the case because of those two, testimonies. but I'd be like, yeah, alright, that's pretty good points on Johnny's side. Anyway, if you're not subscribed here, consider subscribing, doing shoutouts, special thanks, things like that. If you don't subscribe, I'll be sad. If you do subscribe, then you'll get more videos, and that'll be good. See you next time.
Central Parkway in the night, with the orange lights, alright. You can take a drive, fucking